The grocery store buzzed with the usual late afternoon chaos. Carts squeaked, children begged for candy near the checkout aisles, and the beeping of scanners echoed like clockwork. Emily adjusted the strap of her worn tote bag and waited patiently in line. She had just gotten off work from her part-time shift at a cafe, her uniform still smelling faintly of coffee and vanilla syrup. In front of her stood an elderly man, thin and frail, wearing an old tweed jacket that looked a few decades out of fashion. His white hair was combed neatly, but his hands trembled as he carefully lifted each item onto the conveyor belt: a loaf of bread, a carton of milk, a few canned goods, and a small bag of apples. Nothing fancy, just the bare essentials. The cashier, a young woman with a bored expression, scanned the items quickly and announced the total. The old man reached into his pocket and slowly pulled out a small coin purse. His fingers shook as he counted out coins, one by one, the clinking sound filling the air. The line behind him grew restless. A man sighed loudly, tapping his foot. A mother whispered sharply to her child to hurry up and behave. Emily noticed the old man's face flush red with embarrassment. His lips quivered as he whispered, almost to himself, "I thought I had enough." He tried again, emptying his purse onto the counter. A few bills and some coins scattered, but it was clear he was short. His eyes darted nervously between the cashier and the groceries, as if deciding which items to put back. The cashier crossed her arms impatiently. "Sir, you're about $7 short. Do you want me to remove something?" The man's shoulders sagged. He reached for the apples, the only fresh food in his cart, his voice barely audible. "Take these off, I don't need them." That was the moment Emily's heart clenched. She saw not just an old man struggling with money, but a human being carrying invisible burdens, hunger, pride. Without a second thought, she stepped forward and placed her card firmly on the machine. "Don't worry, sir. I've got this," she said softly, but with confidence. The old man froze. Slowly, he turned to look at her, his cloudy blue eyes filling with tears. "Miss, you don't have to," he stammered. Emily smiled warmly. "I know I don't, but I want to." The cashier shrugged, swiped the card, and the transaction went through. The groceries were bagged, and Emily handed them gently back to the old man. His hands shook as he took the bag. For a moment, he simply stood there, staring at her as if trying to memorize her face. Then, with a trembling voice, he whispered words that sent a strange chill down her spine. "Thank you, child, more than you know." Emily gave a small nod, not understanding the weight of his words, not knowing that this single act of kindness was about to change her entire life. The grocery store doors slid open with a hiss, and the cool evening air rushed in. Emily stepped out, hugging her tote bag close to her chest. The sky was painted in streaks of orange and violet as the sun dipped low, and the first few stars began to appear. Behind her, the old man shuffled slowly down the sidewalk with his paper bag of groceries clutched tightly against him. He gave her one last look, his eyes shimmering in the fading light. He nodded, silent, deliberate, before disappearing down a side street. Emily lingered for a second, her chest tightening with an emotion she couldn't quite name. Gratitude. Sadness. A strange sense of importance. Shaking the thought, she adjusted her bag and started walking home. Her neighborhood wasn't far, just a 15-minute walk through quiet streets lined with oak trees. Normally, Emily found peace in these walks. She could unwind, let her thoughts drift, and imagine a better life beyond her daily struggles. Tonight though, something felt different. The streets seemed emptier than usual. Every sound felt amplified: the rustle of leaves in the breeze, the distant bark of a dog, the faint hum of traffic blocks away. Her sneakers crunched against the sidewalk rhythmically, but her ears picked up something else too, the low, steady purr of an engine. She slowed her pace, glancing over her shoulder. A black SUV rolled slowly past, its windows tinted so dark that not even the glow of the setting sun could pierce them. It wasn't unusual to see cars on this street, but there was something unsettling about this one. The vehicle moved too slowly, almost deliberately, like it wasn't just passing by, but watching. Emily's pulse quickened. She forced a small laugh at herself. "Get a grip, Emily. It's just a car." Still, she couldn't shake the prickling sensation at the back of her neck. She tugged her jacket tighter and quickened her pace. When she turned the corner onto Maple Avenue, the SUV was gone. Relief washed over her, and she shook her head, feeling silly for letting her imagination run wild. She tried to focus on happier things. Her little sister's smile when she came home. Her mother's tired, but grateful eyes when Emily handed her part of her paycheck each week. By the time she reached her modest, two-bedroom house, the unease had almost faded. The porch light flickered as she unlocked the door and stepped inside. The familiar scent of lavender from her mother's old candle filled the air, calming her nerves. She set down her groceries and told herself she had done something good today. Something that mattered. What Emily didn't see was the same black SUV parked a block away, idling quietly with its lights off. Inside, a pair of unseen eyes watched her front door, then slowly lifted a phone to an earpiece. "We found her." The night settled quietly over Emily's neighborhood. A thin layer of fog hung in the air, drifting lazily between the dim glow of the street lamps. Inside her modest little house, Emily was preparing dinner. A simple meal of pasta and vegetables. Music played softly from her phone. The cheerful melody filling the kitchen as she stirred the pot. She was still thinking about the old man from the grocery store. His frail hands, his broken voice, and the way his eyes seemed to carry 1,000 untold stories. "Thank you, child, more than you know," he had said. The words replayed in her head, strange and haunting, as if they carried a meaning far deeper than gratitude. Just as she was about to set the table, a low rumble shook the quiet evening. At first, she thought it was thunder rolling across the sky. But then it grew louder. Tires crunched against gravel. Engines idled outside. Her heart skipped a beat. Emily wiped her hands on a towel and moved cautiously toward the window. Peeking through the curtains, her breath caught in her throat. Parked right in front of her small house were not one, not two, but three black SUVs, their glossy bodies reflecting the pale streetlight. They were massive, sleek, and intimidating. Far too polished to belong to anyone in her neighborhood. Her pulse quickened. Men in dark suits stepped out, one by one, moving with sharp precision. Their expressions were unreadable, their posture rigid. Like trained professionals. She counted at least 6 of them. Broad-shouldered, wearing earpieces that glinted faintly in the light. Emily stumbled back from the window, pressing a hand against her chest. "What on earth?" she whispered. Fear clawed at her stomach. Who were these men? What did they want with her? The engines cut off, leaving behind an unsettling silence. The only sound was the synchronized click of car doors closing. Then came the footsteps, heavy, deliberate, approaching her house. Thud, thud, thud. Every step echoed like a drumbeat of doom. Emily grabbed her phone, her mind racing. Should she call the police? But something in her gut told her these men weren't ordinary thugs. Their presence was too organized, too commanding. A loud, firm knock rattled her front door. Bang. 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 Emily's body tensed. She could barely breathe. Through the thin walls, she heard a deep voice call out, calm yet authoritative. "Miss Emily, we need to speak with you. Please open the door." Her stomach dropped. How did they know her name? She backed away slowly, her mind spinning. Every instinct screamed at her to hide, to stay silent, to pretend she wasn't home. But then another thought cut through her panic. The old man. Could this somehow be connected to him? To those strange words he'd spoken at the grocery store. Another knock shook the door, this time gentler, but no less commanding. Emily swallowed hard. Her hands trembling as she reached for the doorknob. With her heart pounding in her ears, she whispered to herself. "Whatever this is, I have to know." She turned the lock. The door creaked open. And standing before her, surrounded by suited guards, was the last person she ever expected to see. The night air felt heavier as Emily pulled the door open. A cool breeze brushed against her face. But it wasn't the chill that made her knees weak, it was the sight before her. The old man from the grocery store stood on her porch. But he no longer looked like the frail, trembling figure clutching coins with shaky hands. Tonight, under the halo of the porch light, he appeared almost regal. His posture was straighter, his gaze sharper, his presence commanding. And behind him, 6 men in black suits stood in formation, like shadows waiting for orders. Emily's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her mind scrambled to make sense of it. "You," she whispered. "What are you doing here? How do you even know where I live?" The old man's eyes softened. There was still kindness in them, but now they carried something else. A weight, a power. a depth that made Emily's stomach twist with unease. "May I come in?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Emily hesitated, glancing nervously at the suited men towering behind him. Every instinct told her to slam the door shut. But something in his tone, something in the way he spoke, not as a beggar, but as someone used to being obeyed, made her step aside almost unconsciously. The old man walked in slowly, his polished shoes clicking softly against the floor. The men remained outside, standing like sentinels. Inside, the house suddenly felt too small, too fragile, to hold the weight of this moment. Emily's pulse hammered as she closed the door and faced him. "I don't understand," she blurted. "At the store you couldn't even pay for apples, and now," she gestured toward the SVs outside, her voice rising. "Who are you?" The old man turned to her, his expression unreadable for a long, heavy pause. Then, slowly, he reached into his jacket pocket, not fumbling like before, but with steady, deliberate hands. He pulled out a sleek black wallet, opened it, and placed something on the table. A gleaming business card embossed with gold lettering. Emily leaned closer, her eyes widening as she read the name. It wasn't just a name. It was a name she knew. A name that appeared in newspapers, on TV interviews, in stories of wealth and power. The kind of name that was untouchable. Her breath caught. "You're." He gave a small, knowing nod. "Yes, that man." Emily staggered back, her hand covering her mouth. The old man she had paid for at the grocery store, the one who looked too poor to buy food, was not some forgotten pensioner. He was a retired billionaire. A man with empires in finance, real estate, and philanthropy. A man who could buy the entire grocery store 1,000 times over. Why were you pretending? Why act like that?" she stammered. The old man's gaze softened again, but there was a sadness in his eyes. "Because money shows you faces," he said quietly. "But kindness shows you souls. I needed to know if people still looked at me as a man, not as a bank account. And today, in that grocery store, you reminded me that humanity is still alive." Emily's throat tightened. His words hit her harder than she expected. He stepped closer, his voice lowering, almost trembling. "You didn't just pay for groceries, Emily. You gave me something no fortune on earth can buy: faith." For a moment, silence filled the room. Emily could only stare, her mind spinning, her heart pounding with disbelief. The man she thought she had helped was, in truth, the one holding unimaginable power to change lives. And now, he was standing in her living room with hers in his hands. Emily's living room was silent, except for the faint ticking of the old wall clock. The weight of the revelation hung heavy in the air. She still couldn't wrap her head around it. How a simple moment in a grocery store had led her here. Standing before a man whose name commanded entire industries. The old man, Mr. Narrington, as she now knew, studied her with a gentle expression, almost as though he could see straight into her soul. "Emily," he said softly, "you did not help me because of who I am but because of who you are. That is what matters." Emily swallowed hard. I wasn't expecting anything in return. I couldn't watch you struggle like that." A small, almost fatherly smile curved his lips. "And that," he replied, "is exactly why I am here." He nodded toward the door. One of the suited men entered, carrying a leather briefcase. Setting it on the table, he opened it, revealing stacks of neatly arranged papers. The sight made Emily's knees weaken. "What is this?" she asked nervously. Mr. Harrington stepped closer. "This," he said, gesturing toward the papers, "is your future. A scholarship fund in your name. For you, your siblings and anyone else in your family who dares to dream of an education without fear of debt. A trust fund to ensure your mother never has to work herself to exhaustion again. And," his eyes glinted, "a job at one of my companies, should you choose it. A place where your kindness and integrity can grow into leadership." Emily's lips trembled. I don't deserve all this." He shook his head firmly. "Kindness is the rarest currency in this world. You may think your act was small, but to me it was priceless. And the rarest currency deserves the highest reward." Tears spilled down Emily's cheeks. She had spent years struggling, working double shifts, sacrificing her own dreams to keep her family afloat, always putting others first without expecting recognition. And now, in the most unexpected way, life had come full circle. She covered her mouth, sobbing softly. "Thank you. I don't even know what to say." The Mr. Harrington's eyes glistened too. Say nothing. Just promise me you'll keep being who you are. Because people like you remind the rest of us what truly matters. Outside, the engines of the black SUVs roared to life, ready to escort him away. Mr. Harrington took Emily's hand gently in his own. His grip surprisingly strong for his age. Tonight your kindness changed me, he said. Tomorrow, it will change the world. With that, he turned and left, his men following in silent unison. The SUVs pulled away into the night, their taillights glowing red until they vanished into the fog. Emily stood in the doorway long after they were gone, her heart pounding, her cheeks wet with tears. She glanced at the table where the briefcase still sat, full of opportunities she had never dared to dream of. Her life, her family's future, her destiny, had all been rewritten because she chose to do something simple. Something human. Something kind. She whispered into the night air, almost to herself, one small act, and everything changed. And with that, she closed the door. Her heart burning with a new kind of fire, the fire of hope,